Hi, everybody. Welcome to your weekly coaching call, your live broadcast, your podcast, your video on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're watching it. My name is Lee Honish. I am the creator of Monster Marketing, digital marketing, pretty much all things marketing for real estate that seem to be guaranteed because nobody else wants to do that. I am joined by the number one sales agent in the Ventura Valley, broker,
State of the
and
Union 2020, where the president is.
that was interesting.
Yeah.
And the owner of the largest and most successful mitigation company on the planet, Home Loan Advocates, David Bartels. How are you doing today, David?
I'm doing just great. Thank you very much.
Outstanding.
I hope everybody is excited about 2020 as I am.
I am. Only because I have no idea where it keeps going for me. I am getting new real estate people who want me to get leads for them, right? As a guy who can guarantee my actual results and actually offer refunds, which is unheard of in our industry, David, if I don't hit my results. But the weirdest thing that's happened over the last couple of months, I guess, finally, all the time that I put in over the last, good God, 9 years of trying to become this marketing guy, I'm now getting the weirdest businesses asking me to get them more business, which is the craziest part of my life right now. We talked about it last week. I got a landscaper slash tree cutter in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. That was crazy. In Chino Hills, which kind of made me smile as an inside joke between you and me, a jujitsu place in Chino Hills that is remotely in the same area of where I used to live. So, of course, I offered to help them almost at no charge whatsoever. But the diversity of what's happening for me as a marketer keeps bringing me back to the same thing. Do you have a list? Let me give a perfect example. There's a little place I buy firewood here at the beach, right? I walked in the other day. I bought my date and I a couple of soft drinks, right? And I was buying some firewood, and I'm looking at the clover as I was putting my card in. And I go, "Oh, you have the clover system?" He goes, "Yeah. What do you think of it?" I said, "It's great. You get email addresses." He goes, "What would you do with that?" I said, "Why wouldn't you send them a store special once a month for the people you capture information on?"
Right.
And literally before I left the store, the guy's writing down my information and goes, "I'll buy you dinner. I want to pick your brain." I said, "I'm buyable. I'm an easygoing guy. You can have me for a steak. I'm a pretty low key guy if you just want to ask me questions." But what I've discovered now, having worked with a diverse group of real estate agents, I can now say it with a straight face, to a landscaper who barely speaks English, and I mean that sincerely. I actually have to have my friend translate because she speaks Spanish. They just want more of what they want. And the basics are the basics. And I know we've been covering it for the last couple of weeks, and I know we've been hammering on it, but we're still in the early part of 2020, right? We're not at the hot season. We're not at spring. We're not at fall. We all know that we're going to have inventory issues within real estate, right? It's brutally apparent that we're going to have issues with inventory. So
Right.
you have to diversify and really look at how you're generating your conversations. So let's start right there. We've talked about it a million times. Of all the things that you've looked at that generate data for you, right, on your list building, I want to hear your feedback first from how you doing with just generating the David Bartels weekly update on Facebook?
Well, when you say weekly update,
Well, you do it bi-weekly, but I know that you do content, right? You have a third-party person who adds content, but you also shoot a couple times a week. Hey, here's the market update. Here's what loans are doing. Here's what's going on in the market in the Ventura Valley. How does that do for your funnel?
Well, I am Well, I do a market update once a month, and then we mix in some other things. And what I've done now is I've created some explainer videos about some of the different programs that we're working hard to get in front of people. So we've got good content, and so we spend a lot of time talking about new content, which I think is obviously important. But when you have old content that is timeless, okay, as it explains something that's static, and you have a new contact, you can use old content for new contacts. And that's really what we've been trying to do most recently, is just tell our story better to people who are both in our database and people who are, and maybe more importantly, people that are new in our database.
I think that's an important aspect that you're bringing up, right? Telling your story. For anybody listening, especially those on the coaching call, I always go back to Gordon Ramsay or any of those makeover shows, especially with food, right? The first thing you look at is, what is the quality of service? So do you fundamentally believe that the service you provide is the best service you can provide, David?
Well, I always think that we can do a little better, but we definitely provide a very high level of service to our people, and we've got the 5-star reviews to prove it. So, which is part of our story, right? Part of our story is that we use things like better than full service, or don't take our word for it. Check out our 5-star reviews, with a link, kind of thing. So yes, it's an important part of our story.
So let's talk about that for a quick second, right? Lead generation, which is content building, which is the long-term funnel solution for any business. I'll say this. I believe that our audience is starting to diversify into a larger realm based on the types of markets that I'm now working in. But let's talk about that. I recently talked to a therapist about doing their marketing, and they gave me all these etherical things that they wanted to do, and I actually created some stuff online. But at the end of the day, I said, you need a Yelp review. No, I don't want to do that because somebody can put a negative review up. I said, yeah, but that's kind of how it works. Like, I can't get away from what Yelp can do, what Facebook star ratings can do, again, you're building this brand, which is you, and for all of you in the coaching room, right, what your message is. In David's case, the help you sell model, the mitigation process, the for sale by owner process. So you've got to build that story and tell that story and be prepared to tell it for close to a year. I would say this to anybody, even who hires me: be prepared for a year. I mean, that's the worst case scenario, but the reality is it can take up to a year of storytelling for people to understand what you're talking about. How do you feel about being involved in open platforms like Facebook allows it, but you can delete there? But you're a Yelp guy, Google Places, all of the important places that you need to be in, right? So that people can find you and see those reviews.
I think it's one of the most important things you can do. I mean, listen, a frustrating thing for me in general is that I wish there was just one place to aggregate testimonials, but there's not. You have to have them on Facebook. You have to have them on Google. You have to be on Yelp, and you have to be on Nextdoor, and you have to be on Angie's List, and you have to be on Zillow. I mean, there's more, okay? And so, after every transaction, we send out an email that's got 5 or 6 different links or 5 or 6 different places that we ask somebody to go and post reviews to, as many of those as they can. And people will generally do 1, sometimes they'll do 2, and that's really the best that we can hope for. Some people promise that they're going to do a review and don't. So I don't know, but I think it's a really important aspect, just like it is when when you're trying to figure out whether or not an Airbnb or a hotel or has, you should stay at based on the reviews, or a product on Amazon where, I was on shopping for something early this morning and I wasn't certain what I wanted to buy. So what did I do? I started reading reviews.
Reviews, right. The TV that's sitting right in front of me as my monitor right now was an off-brand, but it was so highly reviewed, I couldn't take my eyes off of this 50-inch monitor. Like, I literally, the reviews were too overwhelming for me. And it really worries me as a guy who does marketing when people say, I don't want to be open to that because I might get a negative review. Well, I've been doing this for a really long time, David. And I can safely tell you the 3 negative reviews that I've had in my entire career have nothing to do with the marketing that I do. And the reason I bring that up, I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid to give money back. I'm not afraid to put my story, who I am, on the line. The people who hire me know me and they invest in me. And I just think it's incredibly crucial as a private business owner, somebody who's self-employed like yourself, right? You want them to invest in you. And I think that, I know this because I coach a lot of students who don't know themselves. They're afraid of people seeing them or connecting with them or engaging with them. I'm kind of surprised by it. I know that we talk about it a lot, that 1 out of 10 people have a real estate agent and license in California. But the reality is, your biggest fear is that you really kind of have to talk to people. You have to engage. You have to create a relationship. And that's, social media gives us this very unique platform to not only create that relationship, tell your story independently, you can also get it validated by others. There are people on this coaching call right now that will tell you, I'm looking at it, that will literally say that the work that I've done for them is worth every single penny that I've done, to the point where they're too busy. But I don't even believe it's the testimonial anymore. I think it's the compiling of massive amounts of information. I think in this day and age, and I mean this sincerely for 2020, for everybody, if you're not on Facebook, if you're not on Yelp, if you're not on Angie's Place, if you're not on YouTube, or you're not putting out this content constantly, you're killing yourself. I got somebody calling last night about the Monster, right? There's no Monster website to buy the Monster at anymore. I'm going to make it clear. You can go to honish.com, you can fill out a form. I will talk to you and I will see if I want to put you in the group, and I will tell you the price. But the reality is, it's not an open sourced product anymore. So this person had to watch a video that they found because they were looking for something, then came to me and filled out my form. So now I have their information. I was able to talk to them one-on-one and get them to understand my philosophies of why it wasn't just something as simple as, well, I want to fill out a form and get this anymore. I've done that. I'm not doing that anymore. And I think when you create uniqueness and selectivity, and you create the content and you put in the work, and you do it week in and week out, it pays off. You've been doing it for a while now. What's it look like from a list building perspective, and how has that paid off for you?
Well, from a list building, perspective, we're not really using those reviews and places to aggregate, to build our list. They've got, but we're using people to, we're using those places to create credibility with people who are already in our list. Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense. And by the way, I would say this, I think it cross-pollinates, right? As I look at the marketing layout, I look at it as a cross-pollinate. So somebody watches a video of you on Facebook, right? And then they start to research you as a real estate professional, and they find those other parts and pieces. How many times have we talked about it here? For everybody who does the Monster, you don't think they're going to Google you the minute you walk away from the door to see if you actually do this for a living? Like, you'd have to be crazy not to believe that people aren't literally taking a smartphone, Android or iPhone, and typing in your name and see what the search results bring.
Yeah. So if if, one of the things that I do regularly is I Google myself, maybe once a month or so. And then I also search for myself on Yelp and Zillow and some of these other places, so I can see how I compare and rank against other people. So if we want to build a list, or, AKA a business, then we have to think like our buyers think. We need to search like our buyers, our clients are going to search. And then we have to improve our presentation on those platforms. So, and sometimes if I'm working on some transactions, I want to know about the other agent, or the investor, or sometimes the buyer. And so I go in and Google them as well, or search them on Zillow, because I want to know or I'll look for them in the MLS, because I want to know what their productivity is. I want to know what their reviews are, because all things being equal, I've got, an opportunity to go this way versus that way. All things being equal, I want to do business with the more accomplished person, at least more accomplished on paper, because I know that transaction is going to be easier, and it's not going to be as messy, at least in my mind, as if I were to go with somebody who really doesn't have any demonstrated expertise. So I think it matters. I think it matters a lot. And I would say that the number one most important asset that I have is our database. Second, the most important asset we have is our reviews. And the third most important asset we have is our unique selling proposition. And those three things all by themselves will get you some attention. But when you put all three of those things together, now you really have an opportunity to do something special.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, it's one of the reasons I took the Monster offline. I thought one of the biggest problems with the Monster, from my perspective, was I don't think we focused. I know that we focused on the actual product going out and getting people face to face, and we'll talk about it in a minute, and doing the follow up. But now I can see, having hindsight, you have to have an infrastructure. I almost believe that nobody's going to build it for themselves. Like, it has to actually be built. Like, your pages need to be built, your Yelp needs to be built, your content needs to be added. They're really going to do a search on you. And I think it's critical for conversion. I think I've just learned more throughout the years, but critically speaking, you've got to have an infrastructure beyond, oh, I've got a Zillow profile that links to an old Century 21 page. That's not going to cut it when you go to the door as an advocate or as an expert in a particular field of real estate.
Exactly. So when I just Googled myself while we're chatting here, and I see the number one. So when I Google David Bartels, at least from my location, it comes up David Bartels, Westlake Village, California, real estate agent, but it's coming from realtor.com. And so what that means to me is that if someone's looking for me, there's a number 2 is Zillow. Okay. Number 3 is the top 100 realestateagents.com. Number 4 is LinkedIn. Okay. And then there's some doctor that's trying to, that's in my way here. But so if I know that's when I search for myself in my area, and those are the 4 sites that come up about me, I need to make sure that my profile is there. I need to make sure that I have testimonials there. I need to make sure that my sales history is there. I need to beef that up, okay, and make sure that if somebody goes there, they don't have to look any further to see that I am a credible choice, that I'm a force to be reckoned with, that I'm somebody they ought to seriously consider to help them with their transaction, no matter which hat I happen to be wearing.
There you go. And I would say this for me, because David and I are both doing it. For me, number 1, YouTube, of course, content. Number 2, Facebook. Number 3, my own personal website, which makes me happy. Then LinkedIn, then all of the podcasts that I do. which are really literally insane, the number of websites that I actually do. Wow, a lot of podcasts. And then awesomely, an incredible post in Bigger Pockets about somebody asking about monster marketing, which I really appreciate. You know, I appreciate all of this stuff. And there is 4-star, 5-star, all of those different things are laid out there for me. So when somebody is, let's say, a landscaper, and he wants to research me, he's going to see that I do this for a living. And I'm telling you guys all this because what I really want to gear up this call about is about monster marketing. With the market going the direction it's going, clearly we're not going to get a magical influx of inventory, David, and especially with the interest rate drop, clearly we are going to have issues trying to find inventory if we weren't, say, somebody like David Bartels of Help You Sell, having a #1 brokerage with branding and name brand and drip lines and lions and tigers and bears don't lie. If I'm just a regular person, one of these people on the coaching call, how important is it right now before we head into spring, before we head into these directions, right? To really focus on a single niche, right? Master a niche, brand the niche, build the content, put your marketing pieces online, put them on your website, put them on your Facebook page, put it on your Yelp review, create the infrastructure, then go out and start monster marketing.
For sure.
I'm completely blown away by what the direction of this market. I'm actually shocked that they dropped the interest rates, to be perfectly honest, David. And it's going to have an impact. I mean, you either invest the time now before summer rolls around, or again, I don't want this to be mean to anybody on the coaching call. If you guys are happy waiting for close to close, month to month, other month, you guys are killing yourself. Really, I think what David and I are trying to invest in you guys, or information wise, is build these funnels, build these lists, build the infrastructure, go do the monster. I want everybody to be like my clients, right? Where you actually call and complain that you're too busy. I like it when David tells me I'm too busy. I actually appreciate that. That means you're putting in the hustle, you're putting in the work, and then you can't stop. But let's talk about monster marketing for a split second, because maybe we haven't addressed it in a while. For those listening for the first time, you don't have the monster marketing system. Monster marketing is a direct marketing approach. It is not available online. You can go to honish.com, fill out a form. I will be happy to talk to you and explain to you about monster marketing and how it can benefit you. With that said, we focus specifically, I am very dry this morning, specifically on distressed properties. Let's talk about that property search. David, what is your criteria for a good distressed property list?
For a distressed property list, you mean for
yeah, data pull on Property Radar, Realty Track. So step one is pull your data, right?
Build the data. Okay. So what we're looking for is we're looking for people who have a notice of trustee sale primarily. We will also do notice of defaults if we don't have enough people in the funnel. We want them to have a foreclosure date in 7 to 37 days. We do not want them listed. We do not want them if they are postponed because of bankruptcy. And obviously we want them, we don't want anything under $300,000. And we don't, and we want them in a desired geographic location.
I would add one thing. I would make it owner occupied.
And we do that too, owner occupied.
Yeah, that would be my one addition. There is nothing worse than
we mail to non-owner occupied.
There you go. So once you pulled your data list of 36 people, the next thing you do is to print out your marketing pieces. The monster marketing piece itself was created literally 9 years ago. It has been improved a couple of times, but to be honest, I can't figure out any way to make any improvements on it. I've tried turning it sideways. I've tried turning it upside down. I've tried changing the colors. The truth be told, the basics are the basics. Write down the last name and some kind of tracking number. I highly recommend using an APN number as the tracking number so that you can easily look the individual up. Call center's in place with its highly unique script, which takes you to your 3 to 5 appointments per week. If you put out 36, we guarantee those face-to-face. So let's talk about the face-to-face and get everybody back on board with it, David. Walk me through a front door.
So when we go to the front door, remember it's by appointment only. So, somewhere between really cold and warm. Okay. It's not and the reason is they really don't know why we're coming. They just know it's related to their loan modification. And so we go to the door and we basically knock on the door to deliver their package. So we've assembled a package of information. It's both informational to them and designed to help us overcome any objections or answer any questions that they might have. They come to the door, we let them know that we're the advocate, that had an appointment to deliver some information to them about their foreclosure, that we noted they had a foreclosure date on, February 14th, and we wanted to make sure they've gotten it taken care of. They almost always say, yes, they've got it taken care of. We say, great. Did you write a check? Get a loan modification or sell your house? They almost always say, well, we're getting a loan modification. Great. Did you do it yourself or use a real estate professional or an attorney to assist you? They almost always say an attorney. I say, great. You didn't pay them up front, did you? And that's when the conversation starts to get interesting because they have almost always paid them up front. And then we basically get into the package and we start talking to them about, the concerns about the California Homeowner Bill of Rights and why they shouldn't have a foreclosure date, about I can't remember what it is off the Senate bill that makes it illegal for anybody to collect an upfront fee to do a loan modification. And then I just ask them, let me ask you a question. When was last time you spoke to the bank? And then we explain why it's important that they should talk to the bank to find out what's really going on, not to take somebody else's word for it, especially somebody who knowingly and willingly took money from them up front, though it was illegal to do so. Why don't we, I'd be happy to step inside, help you call the bank and find out exactly what's going on so that you don't lose your house as a result of misinformation, miscommunication, or an intentional misleading statement that somebody might have made to you.
Well,
and there we go. And
no,
we get
go
in.
ahead.
No, that's and it just goes from there. I mean, it's hard to recant what turns into a 20, 30-minute conversation typically once we get past the first 90 seconds.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I want to cover this because these are common questions because there are people filling out forms and showing interest in Monster Marketing and joining our group. The first question, how would you answer this one, David? So we're going to do their loan mod. And I make it very clear we're not in the business of doing loan modifications. You can only give them tools to help them with their loan modification. But at the end of the day, we are not in the business of doing loan modifications. We're into building relationships.
For sure. It's not about doing loan modifications unless that's in the best interest of the homeowner and it's something that they really want to do. What we're there to do is make sure that they understand what the alternatives to foreclosure are, which ones are applicable to them, and then help them do what it is they want to do more effectively than they can do on their own, add value.
Now comes the gratuitous plug, because this came up yesterday in my conversation. Well, I really don't want to work on short sales. What do I do if I get a short sale? David, insert.
Well, what most people do is they send the short sale to us to let us do the heavy lifting that's involved. I mean, these take weeks on the short end and months, sometimes years, on the long end. You know, short sales are not short. Typically, they take 4 to 6 months, depending on whether or not we're trying to buy it well below market value or not. What we do is we handle all the communication with the bank. You handle the relationship with the seller. We guide you on how to price it, how to structure it, how to prepare the offer, what addendums to put on it, and then we submit it to the bank and do the shuttle diplomacy that's necessary in order to get that deal done, making sure that you understand the options in an easy to present format so that you can keep your client educated on what their options are, look like a hero, and deliver maximum value to them without spending a significant amount of time that prevents you from doing more business, generating more business, doing more listings, doing more transactions if you're an investor. And the good news is, if you're wondering how much that costs, it costs nothing usually, because the bank, we figured out how to get the bank to pay our fee. So we're getting the bank to pay 6% to agents and then 2% to us 72% of the time. So very rarely does an agent end up having to pay us. And when they do, it's just 25% of the listing agent commission, which should be 3.5%. So when you do a short sale listing, you're doing it at 3.5, 2.5 to the co-op agent, and you end up paying us 7/8. So you make 2 and 5/8 on the deal. We make 7/8, and a buyer's agent makes 2.5, and we will have done the tens of hours, dozens of hours of work that went into getting that thing ready to close. Sometimes doing it multiple times to get it closed.
Yeah, so the minute you walk away from the door, and this is why we put so much time on the infrastructure at the beginning, because I truly fundamentally believe this, the minute you walk away, if you've done your job correctly, how are they not doing a Google search, David? How are they not looking for a review or a Facebook page or a website or any of these parts and pieces that creates validity to what just happened at their front door?
Well, they are, which is why we have created homeloanadvocates.org, which is really an organization. So the way that we're presenting home loan advocates now, I'm Googling it as I'm typing in the website as I'm talking to you, is that we are presenting it as a consumer-based organization. So the way that I'd like to position home loan advocates is we're a national organization of like-minded real estate professionals who are interested in public outreach to homeowners who are facing foreclosure. Our primary mission is to make sure that all homeowners understand what their alternatives to foreclosure are and have the tools and information needed to properly execute the alternative that makes the most amount of sense to them. Because if there's a way to save your house, we want to make sure that we save your house. But if you're going to lose the house, then our objective is to help you to transition out of that house with money in the bank versus being forced out of the house with no money in the bank. And the way the best analogy I could come up with is the concept of Doctors Without Borders, who go serve underserved communities all around the world for no pay. An accountant who goes and does tax returns at a homeless shelter during this time of year. An attorney who volunteers at legal aid, to help people, or takes on cases pro bono, in certain instances. It's the same thing that we do. Our superpower happens to be real estate, not law, not accounting, not medicine. And so we're applying those skills to people who need them most, and those are people facing foreclosure. And that's the positioning. I'm not showing up at the door as a real estate agent. I happen to be a real estate agent. I happen to be a real estate investor, but I'm here because of my affiliation with Home Loan Advocates, and I want to make sure I want to make sure that you understand the alternatives to foreclosure. I'm not here to list your house. I'm not here to buy your house. I'm not even here to have a conversation about those two things. I'm here to talk to you about your foreclosure and to make sure that you understand the alternatives and you take the appropriate action that's necessary in order to help you achieve the very best outcome that's possible for your situation, even if that means having to let the house go. But that's probably not the first objective. So let's talk about how to keep your house.
Right.
These are the conversations I have with people at the door, and these are ways that I present it to people to get them to lower their guard and to have the conversation and to do for them for free what others want to charge them for or create conditions because they don't want to waste their time unless there's some guaranteed income opportunity at the end for them.
I completely agree. I mean, I go to the door as an investor for those investors that are on the call and in the coaching room. It doesn't change for me. And many of you know this. I lack general people skills. I show up like a banker, and we've talked about it on previous calls. I've had people hand me checks thinking I'm from the bank without me even opening my mouth. So I must exude it on some level. So the best that I can do is tell me what the bank did to you, right? Start the conversation, hear their plan, hear what they're working on. I keep it very simple. I go back to the Nino Sabroso script from what now, 5 years ago, David? What's your plan B? Like, I really hope you get your loan modification. I'm really happy to help you with that or get you tools that will help you with that. But at the end of the day, what's your plan B? Like, if this doesn't work out, that's the shocking part to me. And I want to bring this up to everybody on the call. The plan B in their mind is if it doesn't work, oh well. I am shocked at the level of, oh, well, you will get at the front door still to this day. Like they'll just happily walk away from it like it's no big deal. And the goal is to teach them, look, you have equity, you have solutions for ending, even in a short sale situation, you're ending your obligation to the bank. You're creating the end to it.
You have leverage.
Yeah.
I mean, you have leverage. Think about it this way. Here's a simple solution. If I were in arrears on my car payment and I had two options, one option was to wait for them to come to my house and take it in the middle of the night. And I've had that happen to me back in 2009. All right. To have them take it in the middle of the night without notice. Or I can make an arrangement with the lender to drive it to the dealership and get a check for $5,000 in exchange for the keys. So in other words, my cooperation, what's the better way to transition out of the car? Let them take it, enforce it, or to cooperate with them and get a check for $5,000 in exchange for my cooperation. It's the same thing with a house. Do I stand by and let them just force me out, or do I cooperate with them and use my cooperation as leverage to get the cash, get some cash out of the walls of this house that I can use to help me get transitioned into something else? Those are the choices people face often if they're not able to get a loan modification or to write the big check needed to bring the arrearage current and cure the default.
With all of that said, I'll go back to it again. None of this will work, especially those of you that are doing the monster and not seeing conversion rates. You don't have the infrastructure in place. You haven't created the backstory. You haven't created the reality of this is what I work with. And I'm not saying that you fundamentally need it. You don't, technically. I'm just telling you your conversion rates are going to be that much higher when you're creating a backstory and creating the reality for them to know that about you. With all of that said, David, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, you can call me 805-413-8000. That's 805-413-8000, and email is david@homeloanadvocates.com. David@homeloanadvocates, is plural.com.
And if you want to find out about monster marketing, or if you're an existing coaching student, you want to find out how to build your infrastructure or any of that, go to honish.com. It'll take you straight to a form. Fill out the form. I will text you and I will call you. It's that simple. It's not that complicated. It's honish.com, and that'll get you started with monster marketing, with building infrastructures and doing everything. Feel free to refer it to your friend who owns a pizza shop, apparently, because that's what people are doing these days. It's honish.com.